Allison, we want to talk more about the latest round of sanctions. We're joined right now by Congressman Greg Steube, a Florida Republican who also sits on the Foreign Affairs Committee. Thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning to you. What's your reaction to these sanctions? I mean, specifically targeting Vladimir Putin's family. Is this doing anything? Is this helping the Ukrainians in terms of the war against Russia? And if so, how soon could we see these sanctions effects?
Well, anytime we're sanctioning Russia itself or Putin or his allies or the oligarchs, it's obviously helping from an economic standpoint. But as Republicans have said, this was way late in the process. We should have done it back in 2014 when they invaded Crimea. We should have certainly have done it as soon as the Russian soldiers were building up on the Ukrainian border. And we should continue this. And these sanctions can be avoided because the United States government, through the Biden administration, is negotiating with the Iranians and using the Russians and the Chinese to negotiate that deal. So we all are saying that these Western sanctions are helping, but the Russians know that they can bypass them, not only if this Iranian deal gets approved by the Biden administration, but also with the Chinese who are buffering them economically. We need to sanction everybody who's doing business. With the Russians, we need to sanction their oil and gas. A lot of the Western European nations are refusing to sanction Russian gas because they rely on it for their energy needs. So they have to make that change and rely on other countries to be able to import gas for their energy consumption needs and not be relying upon the Russians for oil and gas.
It seems like we're hearing sanctions, 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 but for a lot of viewers, it would appear that there's not a lot of action when that happens, at least not immediate action. The civilians found dead near Kyiv have been a concern globally. You've actually asked the White House to call this a genocide. Do you feel that sanctions are the right response to such atrocities?
Well, I think they're appropriate, but they should have been done a month ago, 2 months ago, when that buildup was happening. And so we'd be much more ahead on the economic side of putting pressure on the Russians long before they even invaded. Congress approved about $14 billion of military aid and humanitarian aid to the Ukraine. I supported that legislation. We need to get those weapons into Ukraine as soon as possible. It sounds like some of those are getting in or have gotten in short time. But that's the type of things you heard from your segment about the Ukrainian minister saying they need weapons, weapons, weapons. So we need to do what we can to support them. I was disappointed to see that the Biden administration backed off an earlier claim by Blinken that they were going to send the MiGs through Poland. Obviously, Zelensky has been asking for that type of support, and it's not putting troops on the ground. It's not sending our fighters out there to do that, but it's allowing them to have the military capabilities to defend themselves from the atrocities that we are seeing on the screen every single day.
I want to get to a couple of other topics really quickly. Let's talk about the Supreme Court. Today, the Senate expected to confirm Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. What are your thoughts on her nomination?
I certainly wouldn't support her nomination. She's a far left candidate that supports small, not the type of things that we should be doing for child predators. She's supported relinquishing on sentencing for child predators, not the type of person that I believe that we should have on the highest court in the land. In a question when asked to define what a woman is, she refused to do that. I certainly don't think that's the type of person we need on the Supreme Court, but there's 2 or 3 Republicans in the U.S. Senate that have said that they're supporting her candidacy, so it should move through this week. For conservatives, it just replaces another liberal judge on the Supreme Court, so obviously it's kind of a one-for-one exchange as it relates to the entire majority, but I certainly wouldn't support her candidacy if I was in the U.S. Senate.
Congressman Steube, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Back here at home, of course,